Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Actually, nah, fuck all that. I'm Johnny Massacre, and you're watching the Johnny Massacre Show. On tonight's show, apparently Kim Jong-un, the North Korean dictator, might be dead or in a coma. We heard rumours about this some months ago, remember that? He disappeared from public eye for a while, and people speculated that he was dead and he had some kind of heart operation. That news came out of the South. South Korea apparently does have spies in North Korea and some kind of channels and connections there. But then Kim Jong-un came out into the public, and that shut the media up immediately because, well, the media just went along with the official communist story. But that might have been bullshit. Kim Jong-un coming out into the public may have been a set of footage from before he had these alleged health concerns. So is Kim Jong-un dead? That is the question at hand. Let's go over to the Hindustan Times to find out. Breaking news. They say, amid concerns over Kim Jong-un's health, expert claims North Korean leader is dead. The last official reports from North Korea stated that Kim Jong-un has issued a dire warning for the country's economy amid reports that he delegated some power to his sister. There he is, looking a little bit porky. He looks like a bit like, do you remember that game, really retro game? There's probably still a version of it called Worms, right? Those little anthropomorphic worms that kind of walk around and blow each other up. He looks a little bit like that. He looks like a giant worm. Oh, that sounds really harsh because comparing humans to animals is a classic way to upset said human. You know, compare you to a rat, you dirty rat, or you dog, you dirty dog. Also, calling someone a worm is not very nice, but really he does look like a cartoon worm. He really does. Anyways, the article says the updates about the health of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un are being keenly tracked across the world. The 36-year-old, who took over the reins in 2011, has skipped several public appearances in the last few months, giving rise to speculation that something is not right. Everybody loves a death rumour, don't they? Everyone kind of loves that, right? It always spreads like wildfire on Twitter and Google that somebody's died, and then people come out and say they haven't died because people like spreading nefarious rumours. So take this with a pinch of salt and pepper, mate. You know what I mean? The article continues, a journalist who has extensively travelled in the Hermit Kingdom, I like that name, Hermit Kingdom, makes me think of hermit crabs. This guy, this journalist, he claims that Kim is dead. Roy Kelly told some media outlets that there are such levels of secrecy in North Korea that even those living in the country do not know what the reality is. Someone's got to make a movie on this. Christopher Nolan, come on, mate, you know you want to. A journalist, the article says, who has extensively travelled... Oh, I've read that. The journalist said that the major changes being introduced by Kim, like making his sister the de facto second in command, point towards something major happening in the country. Well, okay, this isn't news we haven't heard before. Let's keep going, though. Kelly's comments come amid reports emerging from South Korea that Kim is in a coma. I assess him, Kim Jong-un, to be in a coma, but his life has not ended. Several media outlets quoted a former aide of South Korea's late president, Kim Dae-jung, as saying. Then it says, Yang also posted on social media, according to local media outlets, that no North Korean leader would entrust any of his authority to another person unless he was too sick to rule or was removed through a coup, pointing towards the transition of power to Kim's younger sister, Kim Yo Jong. He, however, insisted that the North Korean is still in a coma and that Kim Yo Jong is not his successor, according to reports from South Korea. The last official reports from North Korea stated that Kim Jong-un has issued a dire warning for the country's economy, which is super rare for any communist dictator to criticize their own country, especially their economy, amid reports that he delegated some power to his sister, including responsibility for relations with the US. The state media in North Korea reported last week that Kim told a gathering of ruling party leaders that the country faced unexpected and inevitable challenges in various aspects, and that his development goals had been seriously delayed. The unusually candid assessment came as sanctions, flooding, and the coronavirus pandemic pushed the North Korean economy toward what was expected to be its worst contraction in more than 2 decades. That means famine, something common to all Marxist regimes. Take note, America. Hours later, the article says, South Korean lawmakers told reporters that the country's spy agency determined that Kim had delegated responsibility for relations with Seoul and Washington to his younger sister, Kim Yo Jong. While she had taken an increasingly public role in diplomatic matters, such as responding to a letter from US President Donald Trump earlier this year, one lawmaker described a more formal power-sharing arrangement. Anyways, this is all over the internet. It looks like some random person has run a story and everybody's picked up on it now and they're copycatting. So there isn't much concrete evidence there. But this is all over the news right now. And we've heard about this before. So unless it's just come from nowhere and it's some old news rearing its ugly head once again, I think we might have to pay a little bit more attention to North Korea, because I hope this guy's dead. He's a massive... He's such a bad person. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. He's killed. He's imprisoned. He's starved his own people. Like all these communist psychos like Lenin and Stalin. This guy deserves to die. He deserves to die. He's taken the lives of so many innocent people and has presided over these forced labor camps where torture, rape, and live vivisections happen. Currently, North Korea are imprisoning millions of Uyghur Muslims for being Muslim. It's killing people and reprogramming them because of their religion. So countries like North Korea, who are run by communist psychos like Kim Jong-un, deserve to be smashed. But there is something kind of funny and appealing about communist dictators, right? That's why lefties love them, right? But I think Kim Jong-un's a little bit too extreme even for a lot of leftists. But I find him quite funny. I might go to Halloween as Kim Jong-un this year, because there's something kind of not endearing, but just charismatic about him in all the worst possible ways. And so that and me are a match made in heaven. Anyways, just joking. Look, the question is, what is this? What is Yo Jong, Kim Jong-un's apparent successor, like? Well, let me just explain to you. She's part of a regime that brutalizes, subjugates, and starves and imprisons its 25 million people. And she's been part of that for a long time, taking senior roles in that process. I think this leads to a larger question that I've been thinking about recently. It's not just about Kim Jong's and Yo Jong's totalitarian regime. I think the question is, why do people accept totalitarian regimes in general, right? Because when they kick off, unless it's done through a violent coup, and actually it usually is, people have a choice. If everybody at the same time says, no, I'm not going to do this, these communist regimes could not possibly happen, because there are so many fucking people, 25 million in North Korea. If they all just said no, there's literally nothing that the communist leaders would be able to do. And why is it that some people are attracted to this? Because if you know a little bit about history, right? The arrests made by the Russian secret police in times of Lenin and Stalin often came about through informants. There was loads of informants grassing everyone up, ratting on people left, right and centre, kind of accepting these totalitarian regimes wholesale and helping to realise them into existence. Well, why does this happen? Why do some people flirt with totalitarian regimes? Why is this happening in America? Why do people want this weird Marxist socialism? It's going to get political, people, so bear with me. I'm just going to tell you my opinion. Well, the reason why some people are attracted to totalitarian regimes, such as Kim Jong-un's, according to Jordan B. Peterson, someone who I really admire, it is because, and he said this in a lecture, it's because of the certainty of that regime, even with the slavery, cancelling, censorship and bullying. This is preferable to the existential chaos and dread of having no value system at all. And so it's no surprise that communist regimes are very hostile towards religion, because those represent the ultimate value systems. Even if you, for example, aren't a Christian, the Ten Commandments and those basic human truths that we've all connected with that were around before the Bible, not having that inspiration anymore will create chaos, according to Jordan B. Peterson, and I agree with him. And that's why some people flirt with the order of these communist regimes, even if they're quite horrific. Jordan B. Peterson says a value system is something where you hold one thing dearer than another. And without this, he says, all you're left with is negative emotion with no purpose. And Jordan says, in a godless society, people have continuously gravitated towards the certainty of authoritarianism, which today, in my opinion, is the Democratic Party, which is represented by the far left. Those seem to be the faces of the Democratic Party, or at least they're fast becoming the faces of the Democratic Party today in America. And that's why they're attractive, despite their cancel culture, shaming, censorship, and bullying, which is rife. Perhaps the people flirting with the far leftists at the moment and the Biden brigade need to look elsewhere for meaning in their lives. I really suggest you do. And in these totalitarian regimes, the totalitarianism is basically propagated by social justice. It's dependent upon the average people carrying out the will of the state. And what I guess happened in North Korea, it obviously happened in North Korea, it happens with every single communist regime, is comparable to the Russian SMERSH, or SMERSH, secret police, arresting Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who is the authority on communist abuse. Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote the book Gulag Archipelago, which is one of Jordan B. Peterson's most inspirational books for him that he's read, and it's why I'm reading it now. And I learned in this book that totalitarianism cannot exist without the people carrying out the will of the state, and it's through social justice. Now, the author of this book, who's one of the late leading figures on authoritarian regimes and communism and Marxism, which is all part of North Korea, he was arrested on the grounds of censorship in around 1944 because of his correspondence with a school friend, mainly because his friend was from the Ukraine, which is basically the enemy at that time. And so just having a friend of someone who's cancelled and who, in the eyes of the totalitarian state, is a bad person is enough to get you thrown in jail. And it's much the same in North Korea, obviously. If you are having any correspondence with someone from America, for example, everybody knows that you'll end up in a gulag in North Korea, just like Alexander Solzhenitsyn ended up in a gulag in Russia. And this is also what happens in Twitter. I want to draw some parallels to Twitter because, hey, I mean, it's really interesting to see things that happen in North Korea because it's a Marxist country. You can compare this with other countries, such as America, what with the Black Lives Matter uprising, which is created by Marxists, the exact same people that created the revolution, the October Revolution of 1917, which actually happened in November, I believe, in Russia, and the revolution in Maoist China and whatnot. All of these things have parallels today, so they're actually kind of relevant. And as I said, the relevant thing today in regard to North Korea and even going back to communist Russia is these secret police that arrested Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and the secret police that will arrest people in North Korea, and the secret police that will arrest people in China today for wrongthink. In America, they, in my opinion, are the Twitter mob. So, for example, on Twitter, if you have been seen to have been conversing with someone who is cancelled or has been sent down the memory hole or non-personed, you are deemed as a bad person. And so you too will be cancelled. And this kind of culture, it obviously festers in socialist hard left systems and Marxist systems. And so, yes, North Korea is an extreme example to parallel with the United States. However, the United States right now is seeing one of the biggest cultural revolutions ever, or at least, well, no, it is, in Black Lives Matter. And they are Marxist. The leader of Black Lives Matter are Marxist. And Marxism was created by Karl Marx, and Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, and Karl Marx is basically responsible for the atrocities of Russia, the censorship of Russia, the forced labor camps of Russia, and all over the world, Vietnam, China, North Korea, take your pick. And that philosophy now is at the very core of Black Lives Matter. So I'm kind of veering from today's topic about Kim Jong-un being dead into totalitarianism and why you need to know about this, because it will affect you, since it's a big part of American culture right now, and American culture dictates the rhythm of the world, so to speak. So yes, all of these arrests are carried out, a lot of them through social justice. And the modern arrest, the soft arrest, is basically being cancelled through Twitter. And that's like being arrested. You basically have no freedom anymore. You can't work for your beliefs. And apparently during, just after the Second World War, when people were being arrested and thrown into gulags, according to Solzhenitsyn, from 1918 and 1919 onwards, although officially people seem to talk about it in historical records from 1933 onwards. But anyways, during these times where people were being thrown into forced labor camps, apparently 1 in 3 people were informers. So that means if you're in a room of 6 people, let's say it's your family of 6, 2 of those are going to be informers and will grass you up, rat you out, and you'll get chucked in jail. So that's why social justice is so dangerous. And social justice is obviously a big part of these tyrannical regimes, and it's all over big tech right now. And look, I mean, people will just wave it away and say, oh, you know, it's not, nothing's going to happen. But that's how it starts. You give a little inch, they'll take a fucking mile. And before you know it, suddenly, wow, you'll be living in a world you wish you could fucking hit the rewind switch on. And back in the day, apparently in Russia at this time, if you informed on someone, you got their property. You literally took over their apartment. But nowadays on Twitter, if you inform on someone and get them cancelled, instead you get thumbs up and likes. It's so fucking vacuous. I mean, at least in Russia, you got some free shit. You got someone's fucking house, mate. But now on Twitter, you get some thumbs up and likes. Smash that like button. You know. Social justice. It masquerades as virtuous and kind. But really, I think it's insidious evil. Wherever I see social justice, there's something nefarious going on. There's something evil and bullying and just very bitter and distasteful. For example, take affirmative action, right? You all know about that. Giving people jobs because of their skin color. In my opinion, you should never deny someone a job based on skin color, obviously. But by the same token, you should never give someone a job based on their skin color either. That is without their consent, because if you do that, if you give someone a job through affirmative action just because of their skin color, you're branding the person as a victim, which strips them of their dignity. And it tells you more about the person white knighting than the person receiving the special treatment. That means in a case of affirmative action where someone gets a job, someone gives someone a job based on their skin color, the person doing that white knighting judged that person on their skin color, and they're basically saying they're less capable, perhaps even less confident or less able because of their skin color. And I'm not denying that African Americans have been absolutely fucked in American history. But at the same time, if anyone did that to me and gave me a job or offered me a job because of my skin color, I'd tell them to fuck off. And you'd say, well, you have it fine because you're white or whatever. Oh yeah, whatever. You know, we've all got our problems. They're all relative. If you have someone whose leg's been fucking broken, you can say to them, well, at least you're still alive. That doesn't make their situation any better. So yeah, some people have had it historically worse, but come on, today, you can't tell me that I can't have an opinion on these kind of things just because of my skin color. And you can't tell me that because of my skin color, I'm privileged. Like, you don't know anything about me. So I think this is a fair comment. And so, as I said, if someone gave me a job based on my skin color, I'd tell them to fuck off. I live in Japan, and if it's a kind of menial job, maybe I wouldn't tell them to fuck off. I'd take it, I'd earn some money. But if it's something like music, which is my dream, and someone said, look, you can become the most famous music producer, DJ rapper in the world tomorrow because you're white, I wouldn't do it. And if you don't believe me, send me a private message and I'll tell you a few stories about times where I have turned things down, because for me, it's all about doing things on merit. All of my achievements must come from merit, not because my master gave it to me. So anyways, these are some of the repercussions of social justice. In America, it's much more insidious, and in the West, social justice masquerades as your friend. It's fascism with a smile. But social justice in North Korea, the theme of today's show, and China and Russia is much more brutal. But that's where it ultimately ends up. So be careful, people. Going back to affirmative action, I want to draw you to law number 40 from the book. God, I've forgotten the fucking name, but it's by a guy called Robert E. Greene. Oh, it's called The 48 Laws of Power. And law number 40 is despise the free lunch. So affirmative action is a little bit like a free lunch. Socialism is a little bit like a free lunch. North Korea is a little bit like a free lunch without the lunch because you're starving. Law number 40 of this book, which is apparently 48 Laws of Power by Robert E. Greene, just so you can remember it if you want to download it or whatever, if you want to buy it. That book apparently is the most popular book ever among prison inmates, which makes it fucking wicked, mate. And Law 40 says, what is offered for free is dangerous. In socialist states, they redistribute the wealth. They basically steal it from hardworking, innovative people and then just give it to loads of people, even if they're fucking lazy. Or they're supposed to do that on paper, but they actually just take it all for themselves, and then everyone else gets fucked. And it falls to corruption, which is just part of human nature, and power structures always organize themselves into pyramids anyways. And yes, you should despise that free lunch. And the author says the free lunch, the free meal, the socialist handout that North Korea obviously claims it does for its people, and affirmative action, I guess, does in some ways, and you know what people are saying about reparations will do. This author says these freebies usually involve either a trick or a hidden obligation to vote for the people who will do it for you. The author says friends who offer favors without asking for payment will later want something far dearer than the money you would have paid them. Well, if you go into a socialist system, they will take your fucking soul, because that means you'll be dependent upon the government to live. And what could possibly go wrong putting 100% of your independence into the dependency on a government? What could possibly go wrong with some random person you've never met controlling every aspect of your life, including financial? My point is, North Korea will ultimately fail. The utopia just will not work. And it won't work in America either. This socialist utopia people are trying to create with diversity and inclusion. The people who try to promote that, they've already proved it won't work, because they're the people who created cancel culture and this insane shaming and bullying online. Bullying with any Trump supporter, regardless of what you think of Trump. Online, the people who are talking about making this happy equality shit, they're the most aggressive as far as I can see. They're so antagonistic. They thrive and exist purely on conflict and division. They need it. They need it. They want to offer you a crutch after crippling you. It really feels like that. And that's the tip of the iceberg for what this socialist movement in America has planned. I'm subscribed to various hardcore leftist mailing sites just to see what's going on. I'm subscribed to a site called the Jacobins, and they send me crazy emails about all kinds of violent stuff that they're planning. I'll read you some of that someday. Do you count on these social justice warriors in America that fuck everything up, that fuck up your favorite movies, video games, and all the great stuff in life that makes life worth living? Do you trust them to be nice people, unlike the Russian socialists of Stalin that ultimately threw Solzhenitsyn in a gulag and killed tens of millions of people? Do you trust them to succeed where that lot failed? It's always on paper, right? On paper, the North Korean philosophy of Marxism, which is what Black Lives Matter are literally basing their whole movement around. On paper, it's beautiful. But what isn't beautiful about utopia, about heaven? Everybody wants a piece of that. On paper, it's amazing. But so is banging that big titty bitch without a Johnny until you get AIDS. If these social justice warriors online were super nice and forgiving people, they might have a point, but they're just proving why North Korea is a hellhole, because socialism just doesn't work. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Censoring and ruining everything is a hallmark of social justice. And fuck, At least America's not as bad as North Korea. But if we flirt with Marxism, I think you'll be surprised at how quickly these things can spiral out of control. Ultimately, North Korea is fascinating. I've always been fascinated with it because the human mind is where the interesting shit happens. You can show me cool stuff in a documentary or in a movie or whatever, but what I can create in my mind is far more fantastic and personal than any story someone can tell me. And so North Korea, because we don't know what's going on in there, our mind fills in the blanks. And so it's just rife with all kinds of horrors, nightmares, and interesting shit. And it's fascinating as well because it's the ultimate example of pure Marxism, which, as I said, is rearing its ugly Hydra head in America today in the form of Black Lives Matter, exploiting, in my opinion, black people for power and money. It's funny, you know, Kim Yo Jong. I found a quote from her. I found a quote online. And no, it's not. I found some information about her. And it just says, Comrade Kim Yo Jong attended the expanded Politburo meeting on July the 2nd as a full member. Official North Korean newspaper, Daily NK, said. And I found that really interesting. So, Comrade Kim Yo Jong, right? Kim Yo Jong, potentially the future leader of the most horrible totalitarian hellhole in the world. They call her comrade. Do you know what? A lot of Black Lives Matter supporters, such as Antifa and just people in general, call each other comrades. The same thing that North Koreans call each other, because North Korea and Black Lives Matter is both founded on Marxism. If anyone you know calls someone comrade, I would treat them with extreme suspicion. Finally, my theory on Kim Jong-un. If this is true, and the news seems a little sketchy, but there's a lot of news, so that's why I'm reporting it. It seems like there's a bit of smoke, and as you know, where there is smoke, there might be a little bit of fire. If there's something wrong with Kim Jong-un, and if these reports about his health are accurate, my personal theory is the fucking C word, mate. The C word's got him. The C word. The Chinese virus has gotten hold of him because he's a fatty. He's well fat. And people don't really talk about this, but it's true statistically. Go and look it up. Fat people, especially obese people, they're much more at risk of dying from the C word than other people. He's a massive fatty. Typical socialist. He preaches altruism and says he wants to give to the people, but really he's getting fat at their expense while they starve. And so what poetic justice if he died because he was so fat from all of the resources he took from the people that actually killed him. His gluttony squashed him. I would love that. I would. I reckon the C word's got on him if he is indeed sick. And also because North Korea has shit medicine, because government-sponsored healthcare, yay! They're going to be motivated to make a great medicine when they can't make any profit from it. Unlike the vaccine, which is coming out of the private sector in the West, specifically out of my country, Britain, the Oxford vaccine. But actually, I don't reckon that's going to be successful. But anyways, North Korea's health system is shit. So probably, I reckon the C word's got him. I'm going to speculate. And their medicine's too shit to save him. Yeah. So, that's about it for today. I've got some other stuff about next-gen graphics on the next generation of consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series X. And I've got a tune recommendation, but I've talked so much today. I think we'll call it a day. We'll call it a night there. And I tell you what, mate. Well, you better be back for the next video, because otherwise, I'll be coming round your house. Make sure to like and subscribe. And hit that notification bell, because that is what all those other cunts tell you to do. Laters.